Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into my Wednesday edition on my YouTube channel where I'm going to go ahead and give out my top starts and sits for the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end positions. Everybody knows how this works by this point of the season, so I'm not going to go on a big tirade explaining what you can expect. So why don't I just go ahead and dive into my top starts and sits at the quarterback position. If you're looking for somebody to stream, maybe you had Russell Wilson, he got hurt. Maybe one of your quarterbacks you've been using is on a bye week. I think there's a guy you can take a chance on, and his name is Taylor Heineke. He's playing the Chiefs this week. Now, he hasn't been the greatest quarterback since he's taken over the Washington job, but he has been able to put up good numbers against bad defenses. And that KC defense this year has been just totally bad. Just defending the run, defending the pass. Offenses have been able to move the ball against that defense. And if you look at the fantasy numbers, they are right now allowing the most points per game to quarterbacks. They're giving up 28.1 points per game. And even if Taylor's like not performing at an all-time level or anything like that, at the highest level that he can play at, I also like to bet on the fact that more likely that Chiefs offense is going to probably pick apart the Washington defense, which is already having their own struggles. So I see the need for the Washington offense to have to put up points to keep up with the Kansas City Chiefs, or maybe try to play catch up to the Kansas City Chiefs. So I see a lot of passing yards, and at least maybe getting to a 2+ passing touchdowns on the day. So if you're looking for a streaming quarterback option, Taylor Heineke might be your guy. Another maybe option you could stream this week, because he's starting to, his ownership percentage has been dropping over the last couple weeks, just because he hasn't been playing like a week where you can plug and play him as a starting quarterback in fantasy football quite yet. I do believe one day he will be there. But yeah, his name is Trevor Lawrence. I'm sure you guys heard of him before. He's going against the Dolphins. Now, this game is in London, as I mentioned in my streamable defense portion of my video I posted last night. If you have not watched it, please go back and watch that after this one. But the game's in London, and the Jaguars typically, weirdly, play their best in London. I think it's because that organization is used to traveling to London every year for these games. And I like the matchup as well. The Miami Dolphins have been allowed the sixth most allowed points per game to the quarterback position. They're giving up 22.1 points per game. So if you're maybe looking for an option this week, I think Trevor Lawrence is somebody that you could consider putting into your lineup. Now, my top sits for the week, I'm going with Ryan Tannehill against the Bills. The Bills defense has been playing outstanding this season. We saw what they did to Patrick Mahomes last week. And if they can do that to Patrick Mahomes, they can do that to anybody in this league. They are right now allowing the fewest points per game allowed to the quarterback position, only giving up 10.6 points. So yeah, if you have Ryan Tannehill, if you were considering putting him in a lineup this week, and I'll go ahead and say this, like when I say in a lineup, whether it's your regular season league or in a daily fantasy league, I would not consider playing Ryan Tannehill this week. My other sit is going to go with Derek Carr against the Broncos. Not only the Broncos have one of the better defenses in the league, but they also are only allowing the second fewest points per game to the quarterback position, sitting at 13.3. Because of the whole John Gruden situation, he was the offensive coordinator. He had his hands all over that offense. So there's all that turmoil going in right inside the Las Vegas organization. There were some guys I think that skipped practice today. Not Derek Carr, I don't believe, but there was some guys that just needed a day away from the office to kind of gather their thoughts after everything that came out about Gruden. So I don't know. It's just this thing. If I was considering playing Derek Carr because of the way he played in the first month of the season, I just don't think this is the week. Not only because of everything that's going on in Las Vegas, but because of the matchup as well. Because like I mentioned, they're only giving up 13.3 points per game to quarterbacks so far this year. So if you're looking for a different option than Derek Carr, look at Taylor Heineke, look at Trevor Lawrence. Those are my top starts. My sits again, Derek Carr and Ryan Tannehill. Go ahead and move into the running back position. This is a guy you probably would have started if as long as he's healthy. I know he ran it up close to game day last week, and he was active. He kind of split carries for most of the game. I'm going to anticipate that Joe Mixon is all the way back. I'm going to assume he's probably going to log in a full practice at some point this week. If he did not today, I did not look at it to see if he was a limited guy or a DNP guy or a full practice guy. I did not get around to that, but he did play on Sunday. He did get that touchdown for you, and he just has a juicy matchup against Detroit. The Lions right now are allowing the most points per game to the running back position. They're giving up 25.8 points per game. Another thing to note too is Samaje Perine, one of the backup running backs that was helping replace him throughout the game. He was placed on the COVID-19 list on Monday. Now I'm assuming he's vaccinated. He probably will be able to get back as long as he can test negative 24 hours apart twice. So that could happen, but if he's still testing positive at the end of the week, that means there's just one less guy that would take away from Joe. Now, obviously, if Joe is 100% healthy, I don't think they're gonna take away from him. But if he's still maybe sitting at 90% healthy, maybe they still work in somebody. But if Samaji's not there, maybe they just let Joe take all the touches that he and that ankle can handle at this time. So I like that matchup. My other start, a guy that everybody was ready to give up on this year. I'm sure about 99% of owners outside of the Gaskin family probably did not have him in the starting lineup last week when he blew up against that Bucs defense, especially in the passing attack. But yeah, Myles Gaskin against the Jaguars this week. The Jaguars are allowing the 5th most allowed points per game. They're giving up 24.2 points per game. So I'm just betting on that he could take advantage of the Jaguars defense, and he can take advantage of a situation that is allowing a lot of points per game to the running back position. So if you got Myles Gaskin, I think he's a good flex play this week. Maybe you have to slide him into your RB2 spot because of either the buys or injuries that have happened over the last few weeks. And my sits, this is kind of a mixture of, those that have listened to me before know sometimes I give big names in my sits. Not necessarily you're going to sit them. Maybe you don't play them in daily fantasy. Maybe you play your studs no matter what. I'm a believer in that. You always play your studs no matter what the matchup is, because those type of players like a Dalvin Cook or a Chris Carson can give you such a high floor regardless. But when you see those names right there, some of those names can be like a temper your expectations. So yeah, starting with the top guys, Dalvin Cook, it looked like he did get a practice in today. But if he's not able to go, Alexander Madison's a guy I would maybe consider avoiding this week. The Vikings are playing the Panthers. The Panthers have showcased one of the top rushing defenses this year. And in terms of fantasy, they're tied for the fewest allowed points per game to the position. They're only allowing 9.9 points per game. So listen, if Dalvin Cook is active, definitely play him. He's your stud. You probably draft him at the 2nd or 3rd spot in your drafts this year. If you draft somebody that high, you're going to play them no matter what. But if he has a down game, just understand it's probably because of the matchup. And if you got Madison, I know it's the bye week, so maybe you got to play him in your flex. Maybe you have to lower your expectations with him. But if you have other options, I would consider playing somebody else. Same thing basically is going to go for the next pair of guys, Chris Carson and Alex Collins against the Steelers. I looked it up right before I hopped on to record this. I know the West Coast teams sometimes get to their practices later in the day on Wednesday, so I did not see if he was able to practice. There might be something that came out as I'm recording this. But yeah, if Chris Carson's ready to go, I understand you'll probably play him. Same thing, I view Alex Collins kind of like Madison, right? Like, listen, if you got to play him in your flex, if you got to play him your RB2 because of injuries or because of the bye weeks, I get it. But just lower your expectations with these guys this week. I would consider looking at other options. The Steelers right now are allowing the 3rd fewest points per game to the running back position. They're only giving up 12.1 points a game. So if you got other options than like a Madison or a Collins, I would consider it. If you got Cook, you got Carson, they're active on game day. I totally understand playing those guys. Just don't expect that they're gonna blow up for you. And if they do, that's more power to you, and that just showcases why you always play your studs no matter the matchup. But sometimes you also got to understand the situation if your studs don't deliver for you. So again, my top starts: Joe Mixon against the Lions, Myles Gaskin against the Jaguars. My sit: Dalvin Cook or Alexander Madison against the Panthers, and then Chris Carson or Alex Collins versus the Steelers. Just depending on how those injuries play out as we get closer to game day. And then moving on to my wide receiver starts and sits. I'm going with a pair of wide receivers in Buffalo. Now, of course, you're going to play Stephon Diggs. I'm not going to list him in a start situation. But yeah, if you're looking to maybe play one of their other wide receivers, if you own them on their bench, I know Emmanuel Sanders was one of my waiver targets a couple weeks ago because of these up and coming bye weeks. So if you got Emmanuel Sanders, if you got Cole Beasley, you're looking to fill in for injuries or bye weeks this week, I think those two guys are somebody you can insert your lineup and bet on the matchup. They are going against the Titans this week. The Titans right now they're allowing the most allowed points per game to the wide receiver position. They're giving up 32.7 points per game. So I'm willing to bet on that matchup. Now Emmanuel Sanders has been getting his share of the touchdowns. So I feel like we're going to see a little bit of more of a focus with Cole Beasley this week. I feel like this is going to be one of those Cole Beasley games where he gets those like 10 plus targets and he gets like 8 plus receptions and maybe a touchdown. But I still think Emmanuel Sanders will get his. I could see him definitely getting about 5 receptions plus, maybe about 70, 80 yards plus, and you hope he gets that touchdown. But if you're in the PPR league, he's getting you over 10 points with that type of production. So if you got Emmanuel Sanders or Cole Beasley, I would consider sliding them into your lineup this week. My other start, he's playing tomorrow night, so Devontae Smith against the Bucks. The Bucks have allowed the 4th most allowed points per game to the wide receiver position. They're giving up 29 points per 5 points per game. And then you're just talking about a primetime matchup with Tom Brady and that offense. I can really see the Bucks going up big on this Philadelphia team and blowing them out, which leads to garbage points, which leads to more pass attempts, which leads to more air yards and more opportunity for Devontae to get those receptions and find himself in the end zone. So if you got Devontae Smith, I think this is a good week to play him against that banged up secondary from Tampa Bay. Now my sits, I'll say this, the top guys are definitely temper your expectations. Maybe you can consider somebody else than Brown, but these top 2 guys, A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, it did come out that Julio did practice today, so maybe he's on his way back. But I don't know if I really love this matchup against, like I mentioned, with the sits for Ryan Tannehill. This Bills defense has been great this year. And as far as their defense against the wide receiver position in fantasy football, they're allowing the fewest allowed points per game, only giving up 13.3 points per game. Like, listen, I got A.J. Brown. I'm playing him this week in the league I got him in, but I just don't have that high of expectations. But listen, if A.J. Brown blows up, that's why, like I mentioned, you always kind of play your studs. But if he has a down game, don't be surprised. It's just not the right matchup for him this week. And same thing with Julio Jones. Like, if you got another option, maybe you can play somebody else because he'd be working his way back from a hamstring injury. So if there's like maybe a week you wait on Julio, I know it's like you don't want to leave Julio out of your bench and then he blows up and you're like, Cody, why'd you tell him to sit? But sometimes, like, I can be patient with a hamstring injury, especially with those type of injuries. They can be easily re-aggravated, and then all of a sudden you don't have Julio after the first quarter of the game. So, if you have another option that you feel comfortable with, I get it. But again, if you play Julio, just have the understanding that maybe he could re-aggravate that hamstring injury, or he just doesn't have that right matchup against that Bills defense. And then my other sit is you guys see it. I put Hollywood Brown. I've been calling him Marquise Brown. He finally has delivered on year 3. He was one of my year 3 guys to watch this year. He didn't crack the top 5, but just a guy I was saying in that video, my very first YouTube video, that if I had an opportunity to draft Hollywood Brown, I was going to do it because year 3 guys can blow up, and he is blowing up right now. Like, outside those 2 drop touchdowns against the Lions, he has put up outstanding numbers, and Lamar Jackson is definitely looking in his way. But I just don't like the matchup this week. If you play him, I get it. He's been highly productive. Just temper your expectations with the play. But he's going against that Chargers defense, which right now has been allowing the 2nd fewest allowed points per game to wide receivers. They're only giving up 15.4 points a game. So, this might be more of a run-heavy offense. The Chargers' rushing defense has not been that great. We saw what Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt did to him. So I could see this being more of a Lamar Jackson, Tyson Williams show on the ground, and maybe Hollywood not being as much as involved in the offense as he has been over the first quarter of the season. So again, my top starts: Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders against the Titans, Devontae Smith against the Bucks, and my sits / temper your expectations: A.J. Brown and Julio Jones against the Bills, and Hollywood Brown against the Chargers. Now, wrapping this up, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the tight end position. with my starts. Yeah, my Colt, he only got, I think, what, 3 or 4 catches, but he still got over 50 yards against the Ravens, so that was still a decent play when you compare it to most tight ends. I thought maybe he could find the end zone. It just did not happen, but I think he's another good, sneaky, streamable play this week. It's Mo Alie-Cox against the Texans defense. The Texans defense have now has taken over the Ravens, which was the worst defense against tight ends. Now they're allowing the most points per game to tight ends, sitting at 13.6 points per game. We saw Hunter Henry get a touchdown against them last week. Alie-Cox, it seems like he's getting more and more involved in this offense. They're not using Jack Doyle as much as they have. Kyle Granson's maybe getting a target or two here, and I think Mo Alie-Cox has slowly emerged over the last couple weeks as the lead tight end in that group. If he shows up this matchup, maybe he could be an option for you going forward. But if you're looking for a tight end to stream this week, I think Mo Alie-Cox should be in your consideration. Speaking of streaming tight ends, I think there might be a sneaky play this week with Ricky Seals-Jones against the Chiefs. As I mentioned back in the quarterback position with Taylor Heinicke, this is more based on the matchup. The Chiefs, like I mentioned, they've been one of the worst defenses in the league this year. And right now they are allowed the 5th most allowed points per game to the tight end position. They're sitting at 11.7 points per game. So I can see Ricky Seals-Jones taking advantage if the Chiefs are up big and him being a part of that pass-happy offense, like I mentioned when I was talking about Heinicke. And I could definitely see him maybe finding the end zone this week against the Chiefs. So if you're looking for a streamable option, I think Alie-Cox or Seals-Jones. I just realized as I'm talking about it, the hyphenated twins with their last names this week in week 6. Now I got some kind of bigger, one's a really big name that's going to be a temper your expectation. One's a guy, Dawson Knox, who's really showed up in year 4 in the NFL, and he's been able to give some people some great value over the last couple weeks with his production. But I don't know if I really like this matchup against the Titans. For whatever reason, I don't know. I would have to dive deeper into the tape. Maybe it's a combination of Jayon Brown and Rashaan Evans kind of covering the middle of that defense. But for whatever reason, fantasy tight ends have not found success against the Titans. Right now, they're only allowing the 3rd fewest allowed points per game to tight ends. Maybe because it's all the wide receivers getting on the points on the outside, because outside of Christian Fulton, the other cornerbacks have struggled this year. So and they're only giving up 3.1 points per game to tight ends. So if you've been rolling with Dawson Knox, I can understand it. He's very hot right now. I just think if there was a way, because here's the thing with that Bills offense. Let me just say this too. There's so many mouths to feed in that offense, and they still got the running backs are going to get their fair share, and they got their wide receivers. So it's not like Dawson Knox is going to could put up this consistent production. Now, could he? Yeah, I definitely could believe it. But at some point, Stephon Diggs is going to have a game. Emmanuel Sanders is going to have a game. Like I said, I have a weird feeling this is going to be a Cole Beasley game for the Bills. So if you play him, I get it, but just temper your expectations because, eventually other guys got to be fed in this offense. And based on the numbers, the Titans have been very effective in fantasy football against the tight end position. And then my other sit is Darren Waller against the Broncos. Kind of tying this back as well to the quarterback position with Derek Carr. They are playing against one of the better defenses in the league. Now, listen, you probably drafted Darren Waller in the 3rd, 4th round of your draft. You're going to play him. He's an absolute stud. I got Darren Waller in one of my money leagues. I'm not going to bench him. But just temper your expectations because of not only the matchup, but the whole fiasco that is going on right now with the Raiders and the fallout of the Gruden situation. I think I saw something that he did not practice today, but it wasn't injury related. I think he might have been one of the guys that just wanted to stay away from the building for the day. And also just because of the matchup too, the Broncos are allowing the 2nd fewest allowed points per game. They've only given up 3 points a game to tight ends. So I think Darren Waller he's got the talent to overcome the situation and give you some production. But listen, if he has a very down game, just understand the matchup was not right for him this week. But he still should be getting those amount of targets. So this is definitely one of the, not necessarily a sit, but just a temper your expectations with Darren Waller this week. So again, my starts at the tight end position, Mo Alie-Cox against the Texans and Ricky Seals-Jones against the Chiefs. And then my sit, Dawson Knox against the Titans, and then Darren Waller against the Broncos. So yeah, that's my video, the top starts and sits for week 6 of fantasy football. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, please like the video. It puts a smile on my face anytime I see that like. I have not got a subscriber in a while, so can I get somebody to convert and make me happy? I would love to get that subscriber count up, so please hit the subscribe button. As always, go check out the Prospect Encyclopedia. You can go to prospectencyclopedia.com to order it. It's only $15. You get an individual team PDF for $1. As always, I say you can check out the Buck section, which I wrote for free. Then if you want to go make that purchase, you can go do that. Basically, you're going to get all 32 teams, a top 22 prospect list. It gives you an idea of guys that are like, up and coming special teamers. Maybe there's a guy like, for example, I wrote Khalil Davis in the Bucks section. They have a deep defensive front. He had to get released so that they could make room for like Richard Sherman or because they had to add cornerbacks to that roster. So sometimes when you have injuries, you got to lose good potential good players. He signed with the Colts, and guess what I got to do? I got to promote that guy's report on my Twitter. That's the thing. Like, this is it's a thing that keeps on giving. It's a way you can know more guys in the league. Again, go check it out at prospectencyclopedia.com. See if that kind of floats your boat, and support not only me but the rest of the great writing staff that was on it this year. Other than that, I'm gonna head out of here. You guys will see me again on Saturday when I do my normal NFL Week 6 preview. You guys enjoy the rest of your week, and if you have any fantasy questions, don't be afraid to hit me up in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter, the DMs, or even text me if you got my number. Talk to you guys later.